Let's talk about psychedelics. I have talked about psychedelics a long time and in many different contexts, but this time it's different. A few days ago, I was sent three separate videos from three separate friends regarding psychedelics in some form or another. But the reason I also think that this is very important to talk about right now is because while watching those videos, I had a lot of insights, and then seeing how people in the group that I moderate is also very much in the gray, I would say, when it comes to a lot of these things. I think it's very, very important to talk about it. Many people will not talk about it at all because they fear that the law and the order will burst down their door when they don't expect it. So there is a lot of fear tied to this. And I think it's by design. I think that it's over time, people have just associated this entire topic with fear and loss and just complete mayhem and chaos. And I'm sick of it. So first of all, I think it's smart to leave a disclaimer here. I do not recommend that you take psychedelics if you're not ready for it. If you haven't done your studies, if you don't know what you're going into, if you don't know what they are, if you don't know how you react somewhat, you can never know really how you're going to react to these things. But you should have some fundamental understanding into your own self, some self awareness, and just know that this is something that you do to get to the next level of your own development. That's my humble opinion. You can use psychedelics in so many different ways that it's impossible to say exactly how to use it safely. But the way I have always looked at it is from a perspective of personal development. And that's why when I speak about this, it's going to be in terms of spiritual or personal development. So, and or business development for that matter. Let's just because I wrote a page of notes while I went through these things, and one thing that I really actually didn't know: psychedelic means manifesting the subconscious, and I think that is a very apt meaning of it. I was kind of blown away when I saw that. But the first topic that I have here is: Are we ready? Are we ready? It's illegal, but it is a medicine. See, that is the thing. Many people will say that we don't do psychedelics because they are illegal. Yes, they are illegal. But why? Why are they illegal? Because it wasn't illegal until 1971. It wasn't really discovered until the 1950s. And when they discovered it, Western society does what Western society does. All the hippies, basically. Back in the day, we had just had Hoffman, I think, in that time period, inventing LSD. Psychedelics had started to take a rise, and everyone flocked to this one place down in Mexico where they had magic mushrooms because they created this news article in this paper. I'm not really sure. I think it was a big one, and I won't say the name because I'm not really 100% sure of which paper wrote about it. But it ended up in many people flocking to this village and basically ruined the person's life. The one who had introduced this magical compound to the person who found it first, which was a lawyer, I believe. I should have done some research on this, and I'm probably going to do that, but I'm just going to talk from my current understanding, and then you just take what you can from that. If something is useful, then you use that. If not, then just scrap it, because there are going to be some gaps, and I think that is a good thing, because if I can say something that is going to raise some questions in your mind, then you might go out and search for those answers, and that is the clue, isn't it? It is the question that leads us. So, are we ready for psychedelics? That is more or less the big question here. Is humanity ready for the profound change that psychedelic mushrooms or psychedelics in general can produce. And I'm going to talk about mushrooms in general, or exclusively, because I think, from my own personal perspective, talking about anything other than the mushroom that is growing here in your garden, I don't have any interest in talking about LSD because that is a chemical compound that is created in a lab. I think that it is principally wrong to make something that grows in your garden illegal. And that is more or less why I think cannabis should be legal, because it grows in nature. And who are we to say that something that grows in nature should be illegal? When you start to go down the rabbit hole of what cannabis and mushrooms can do, these natural compounds that comes from Mother Earth, when you start going down that rabbit hole, you're going to see why. You can see patterns. You see, like, okay, if this was in aisle 2 of the pharmacy, aisle 1 to 15 would not be necessary anymore. And of course, that would lead to a massive profit loss. So we should not do that then. Pharmacies and these most health organizations will have medicine that you are more or less dependent on. You're a repeat customer. And once you see yourself as that, things change. Because once you see that if you were to have one medicine that could kind of cure what you are going through, to remove the root of the cause. So instead of SSRIs, antidepressants and stuff, if you can do one medicine, one time, and from there not have the need to do anything else, not need to have more medicine, and be well and healthy, that causes a problem in the profit margins. And if you start to watch the world through those financial gains and losses, things becomes really interesting. And we're not going to go a lot into that, but I think that in terms of are we ready, I think it is about time, because today there are so many people lacking the fulfillment in life. They are depressed. They don't have what they want in life. They are in a place where they need help. They don't know how. Suicide rates has gone freaking through the roof, and it's annoying to know that there are ways to fix this. And I'm not saying that it's going to fix everything. I'm not saying it's going to cure anything. I'm not saying it's going to be a treatment or something that is guaranteed. I'm saying that there are so many studies and research done on this by now that the fact that people are not doing it because they're scared of it irks me to no end, because they could, massively reduce the suicide rate if they just saw this for the medicine that it is instead of the drug they have labeled it as. So, yeah. Let's see, mythology. Yeah. Those who knows, I wrote. And that is because if you watch especially in Norse mythology, where we came from a giant, there was once in the beginning of time a giant. Out of the sweat pores of this giant came a few gods, Odin and his brothers. I'm not going to say their name, but there's like Will and something. But at one point they killed the giant, and the stars were made from the inside of the giant's skull. And over time there came a few logs that washed up on the beach, and they carved out a few humans out of these, Usk and Embla. And when you start to watch this, wolves in the sky that is going to, their only mission is to eat the moon and eat the sun, and then we have the Fenris wolf that is going to eat the entire world, basically. So huge that the top of its mouth is going to scrape the heavens, and the bottom is going to scrape the earth. If you watch the stories, you're going to be like, yeah, this was not done just by someone sitting down there, right? This had to be done through some experience. And if we just look at the whole historical aspect of mushrooms and psychedelics in general, if we watch the stone ape theory, how humans might have been able to take the leap to speech through eating a mushroom on the African plains, all of these theories becomes very interesting when you see the effects that it might have, So regardless of us believing in it or not, the whole mushroom presence has been significant throughout human civilization. We see it in the Egyptian carvings and stories and fables and legends and mythology. We see it all over the place. And they have actually depicted us using mushrooms in many, 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 many cases. And then we have yet to see how the brain really works. And then I have a point saying less depressed. That's what's interesting about this for me. The fact that this is still so unknown, that we have so much to learn yet. And that is why I have been stricken by the bug. I want to learn more because we still have so much to learn. You know, for me, it changed my entire reality. I started to have more emotional balance. I started to see my thoughts in a different light. I started to think differently. I was more present, more empathic. I was more able to go into my children's worlds. So if we were running around this forest, it was really easy for me to just jump into the game and then, this tree has magical powers. How do we harness the magical powers, you say? And my 5-year-old daughter would show me how we take out the powers from the tree and how we take them into our hearts and how we then use those to do whatever we want. She became super fast, so she just was zipped out of there. But you see, I was not able to do a lot of that before because I was so stressed. I was so stressed about the future, so torn down by the past, whatever. I was not really present. But now, after I found psychedelics in 2018, I was a lot more able to be present and just enjoy life. And I always remember people about this. For me, it just makes sense. For me, it's logical that you should not fear the future. You should not be focusing on the past. You should focus on the present right now and then create your future using the power you learned from the past. It's so logical for me, but every day I'm talking to people who's not seeing the logic of this. So that's one thing, and I have no idea how that works. I think that the reason I got those results was because of neuroplasticity and neurogenesis, which is where I get new neurons that is making new understandings in my brain. Like I'm seeing the world differently because of new neural pathways being connected. And over time, that's going to just make me see the world differently. And it was not because of the mushroom. It was not because of the psychedelic. It was because of how I really focused and devoted myself to personal development. I found the mushroom through personal development. And that's why I'm such a fan of it. That's why I'm such an advocate for it, because I found that as a means to an end, not as I'm gonna get fucked up, which I'm really painting a picture here. I'm also, just a disclaimer again. If I say something that is very black and white, it is to paint a point. It is to just say that, I've seen so much, and overall, it feels like sometimes that a lot of people are just out there to get high. And that irks me. So I will put on a little dramatic effect saying, oh, it's like everyone, like, you know how it means. We like to use those over the top explanations. And I'm notorious for it. I will use that all the time. Then we have set and setting. There's so much that I can talk about here just from the small 2-3 word notes that I took that I'm not going to get through a lot of this. But the reason, because I have psychosis, right, written slightly under this. The reason I want to go through this video is more or less to give you a little understanding and also to maybe want you to learn more. And if you want, we have a course for that. We have a lot of things that we are trying to get out there. But set and setting being the most important freaking thing that is in general. Like, there is nothing more important than set and setting. If you see mindset as the set and the environment you're in as a setting, you want to really have these in mind when you're going into psychedelic trip, because if you're not taking those into account and you're in a place where that could fuck you up, and if you don't have experienced guides around you, if you don't have people to make sense of what you're doing, and let's say that you go through an ego death. I'm not going to go through the intricacies of an ego death right now, but if you were to go through a huge experience, if you were to go and deal with these massive shifts in your own personal reality, some people end up in a psychosis because they experience something that is referred to Christ consciousness, and they don't really know what that is, but they felt it. And then after that, they have to make sense of what those emotions were. And if they don't have the answers to make sense to themselves, if they don't have someone there to say, well, this is actually because of something we call Christ consciousness. This is how we redefine love. This is love as you're feeling it. What you knew was love as you've been taught. You know, there are so many rabbit holes that I can jump into as I'm going through this. But knowing about the concepts before would really go in and help the set and setting part of it. If you have a fundamental understanding, if you have some foundation before you go into this, you're way better off. And if you have people that are going to guide you, which I think is a freaking crucial step if you don't have anything in terms of experience, a guide, having someone who's been there before to make sense of this is gonna maybe alleviate psychosis more. I think someone is just more inclined to have a psychotic break because it's going to shift their entire perspective so much that the brain has troubles really integrating this. But then we have the problem with the society, like the system that we have right now. They love to label people and then just shove some medicine in their face, medicine that is going to keep them in the state. They zombify them. They make them dependent on medicine instead of just showing them and guiding them through what they've now understood and experienced. And completely different topic again, but I think that a whole bunch of the stigma and all the problems that we see around psychedelics can be avoided and completely removed if we really take these things into account, set and setting, and then knowing a little bit more about psychosis, which, to be fair, we don't know a lot at all. And that is also interesting because we really don't know a lot about how we get affected by psychedelics in the long run, right? So a psychosis could literally, as far as I've seen so far, because I'm able to communicate with people who are in a psychosis, because I've been there temporarily until I come back from the trip. But some people are there for a longer time, and then to navigate them back. It's one of those things that I really have a problem with people trying to say that this is the issue when they're trying to diagnose a problem that they have never been inside of. They have never experienced the issue, so they are just basing their knowledge on the book and the experience of going through a lot of people that has gone through this similar diagnoses. And that is, for me, I'm not going to talk about it because I get really pissed off. Let's see. It can be scary. It can be fucking scary. You can either have like this euphoric sensation where you're going through and just everything is amazing. Look at the colors of the nature. Oh my god, I'm so happy to be alive. The breeze on the face just feels amazing. Everything is just holy shit. How did I not see this before? That could happen. But you can also have a ego death. You can go through the most hellish realm ever. Like you're going through something that cannot be explained in words because it's so fucking scary. But here's the thing though. Most people will fight that. When they go into psychedelic experience, they might fight that feeling of, the scary situation. Some people might actually go in with a backup, so they have. I don't know if I want to say it at all, but some people use benzodiazepam to get them back, and I think that is a horrible, stupid idea. But that is my own personal opinion. If you are going in there with a trip killer, then you're not really ready to use psychedelics because they are used as a way to get more self-awareness. So if you're seeing something that can produce a bad trip, go through it knowing that if you release, if you surrender, if you breathe into it, you have then accepted it to a lot of, like a huge degree more than you would have done if you killed the trip. Because if you kill the trip, it's like watching a movie and you're going through and you're seeing this kind of scary part, and then you just stop the movie and you're left with the horrible memory of the peak of the horrible piece of that movie. Instead of watching it through, and then, the protagonist might reframe the entire situation, kill the monster or do whatever, and then it ends on a happy note. And then all of a sudden, whew, that was good. I saw how that whoop, and then you come back down and you see that, okay, it actually had a happy ending. Instead of stopping it at the worst part, and then that's what you remember. That just does not make sense to me. But if you go through it, you will see that even though maybe the entire trip will be a hell space, Maybe you'll go through alone, because I think that if you have guides who can see these and spot these and then guide you back, if you're going through these alone, you will have a harder time to accept it. And if you don't have anyone to speak to, which a lot of people do not have people to talk about this with, they go around alone because they're scared of how everyone would see them if they were to talk about this, or they are afraid of the consequences of the law if they were to talk about this. Then if you are actually just talking and reflecting and getting feedback based on other people's experience that is from your experience, so that you know that, okay, I'm not crazy, other people have seen this, then you can accept it, you can surrender, you can leave it behind, and then the next time is probably not going to be like that, because now you have accepted it. Now you are able to go further. That's what I realized. In the beginning, sure, I had things to deal with. I had to go through some shitty moments, and I did that alone, based only on the understanding that I had from reading a lot of books, seeing a lot of podcasts, talking to a lot of people, but it cannot really measure with the actual experience. But having that foundation, I was able to see this, identify it, and remember that, okay, in this, I'm supposed to just breathe and surrender. So I did, and it was not that hard. But other people who don't know that, they're going to go through some shit. If you absolutely need a trip killer, which I highly, I advise against, then mango or something natural, sugary, something that just, there's a plant that is not really a plant. It looks like a mushroom, but it's not really a mushroom. It's called ghost pipe, and it is found, it's rare, and is around the forest. It looks fucking creepy. Google ghost pipe. This was used as a natural trip killer, where one drop would just, you're out. But used in the most severe conditions. Like if you were a shaman, it would be great to have one of these in the ceremony if people simply were not ready for the ceremony to be taken place. Because some people might think they're ready, but then they see themselves from the shadow side, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, I was not ready. About that, I was leading into something where when I started, I had the hellish experiences. Now I have accepted those, surrendered those, or surrendered to those, and I'm able to more find myself. I'm becoming centered. I come home whenever I do a psychedelic trip, which is something that I found really interesting because it just paints a picture of where I was in my personal development, so that whenever I do these now, I am more of an anchor. I'm more of a support because I have gone through my shit, and I'm still trying to figure this out. But the last few sessions has been like me finding myself. I'm just there, and I can take it further. I can start to download new information. I can start to think in different perspectives of what I already have. I can start to reorganize a lot of thoughts, whatever I want to do, really. And I couldn't do that in the beginning, so it's a journey. It is a step-by-step process that we have to accept, basically. Yeah, so ego death. Let's just talk a little bit about that because we're already on 23 minutes and have just gone halfway down the page. But an ego death is where you just fall out of time. And you're starting to contemplate, what the fuck is life? What is life? Who am I? What am I? Who is my family? Do I have a family? Oh shit, am I crazy? No, goddamn. And then you have to start to rebuild your life, basically. And then the way I see it is when you start to rebuild it, you're starting to think about things that you want in your life. So I have a partner, I have kids, I have a dog. Ooh, I'm here. Ooh, I love, this is me. I'm okay, I'm this person, right? And then it feels like when you've rebuilt yourself, you've tossed away all the unnecessary shit. So you're more of a firm or a pure person of the person you're seeing yourself as, if that makes sense. You're rebuilding yourself as the version you want to be. And I think that is a beautiful thing, which is why ego, death, it sounds horrible. But the reason it's called death is because it really feels like you're dying. A piece of you have to die. A piece of you have to die so that you can go on living in this new reality, right? Because if you want something new, then you can't be keeping tabs. You can't be holding on to whatever has happened. You have to be able to release and let go of that so that you can birth something new. If you want to get new information, you have to really just toss out the cup of whatever information you had before and then fill that new cup with whatever information you want to have in life. And that could be without the trauma. That could be without the experiences of your childhood. That could be without your limiting beliefs. That could be something that is more pure, aligned with who you truly are. That's why ego death, it might sound horrible, but it is really a beautiful experience and something that can really take people to the next level of their development. Which is why, again, I always circle back to personal development. Time displacement. Yeah, I wrote that. Time displacement is a weird thing. When you're watching your time and you're standing on the same minute for 3,600 years. That's when you have time to do a lot of good stuff in yourself. But, being a guide, sometimes having one of those, it's hard to explain actually, but you're trying to be there for other people and you're just being there and you can't get out of it. And it's like, I should get to bed, but I have no idea when tomorrow is, if it is even a thing, or how I'm going to get there. I'm just going to sit here and wait for 3,600 years. And I don't know where these numbers come from, because it's not like I'm sitting there on a calendar just counting the years going by, but it feels like that. And I've had a lot of those moments where I just, that was a lot of thousands of years. Interesting, right? And I think a lot of people who's been there can relate to this. And it's a very interesting phenomenon. You need to be ready, basically. I think that if you're going through one of these things, it really helps if you are at a point where you want something new and you see that, okay, I'm going to do this. This is what's required of me. I feel called to do this. And that kind of makes it all a lot more powerful as well. It's something to be respected. It's something to be really taken serious. And it's about your human development. So be ready. Are you ready for that? Many people are not. They have fallen in love with their comfortable bubble in life, and they will just continue to complain and or some people don't even complain, but they have fallen comfortably in love with what they have. So they don't want to have more. They are just complacent. Complacent is also a wrong word to use here, because there are so many different people. I wanted something new in my life. I wanted to see what was possible. So I went down to search for answers. Other people don't really have questions they want answers to, and that is completely fine. And then the sun comes after rain. That's also a very good thing to remember. Sometimes things are shitty, but the sun always comes out afterwards. If you just have patience, know that this is just a temporary state, and that is also in terms of if it was a bad experience. And it goes into life in general, right? You're going through shit. Sometimes it's okay, because the sun will come after rain. So just hang tight and know that things will get better as long as you breathe. And then you get a completely new understanding of love. I completely redefined my entire concept of love, and that is the most interesting thing about this. After a psychedelic trip, I saw everything as love. I think this is why in the 70s or 60s, the hippie movement was very much about one love. It was very much about just loving everyone. And some people would be like, oh my God, you can't love everyone. It's hippie, right? But that is from your perspective of love. If you see love as anything above neutral in the positivity spectrum, if you see love simply as a higher frequency than something that is bad, and then everything that is lower than neutral on that spectrum of frequency being something that is negative, you only want to be focusing on the love and the positivity and the plus and the up and the higher vibrations, right? And if love, like this good emotion, is where things happen and you feel good, it makes sense to just always try to follow that feeling. And that's why love is a very, 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 very huge concept for me. It's everything. It's SLS, it is manifestation, it is who I am, it is everything. It is positive, good energy. It's light. It's just good, right? So I felt like I understood love differently after these things, and that is so freaking insanely interesting, because it affects how you act with the world, how you react to the world, and how you are with other people, and how they are with you, and everything. It's just it reshapes everything to the better, to the infinitely better, because you get more understanding, you get more patience, you get more empathy, all these things that we talked about. It's all from a different facet of love, in my opinion. So here I get into the benefits, and I just said that. Kinder, more understanding, presence, reframe an annoying situation. You go to the root cause of the thing instead of just trying to cure the symptom, as we love to do in the mental health system. We just toss a few pills on this, and then you just go home with those pills, and that's good. Also, just because this got me into the thing I saw. There was this veteran, a U.S. Army veteran, who came to a mental health facility, and he wanted help. He needed help. Actually, he didn't even come in because they didn't have time for him, so he called, and he was told to get down there and pick up some medicine, I think. When he got down there, and he called because he had suicidal thoughts. He really wanted to kill himself, and he comes down to this organization, and they say, here, take these pills, but don't take too many because they can kill you. And then come back after the holidays. And this was, I think, during Christmas, which is a very tough time for a lot of people. And they ask, do you have guns at home? And of course, he is, an army veteran. Of course he has guns at home. So he says, yes, yes. And they ask, can you just give those to to your neighbor when you come home so you don't do anything, right? He was really on the bottom. He wanted to kill himself. So they got him a good bottle to do that with. And then they tell him at 4 a.m. that he should give his guns to his neighbor so that he doesn't do anything stupid, and then come back after the holidays. Just let that stupidity sink in, because that's what we're dealing with. That's the system that I have so many issues with. Now, of course, there are people in that system that could help you, but there are so many that is left behind. So many that falls off the side of this that can't get the help they need. So then he did a psychedelic therapy session. I just froze a little bit. He did a psychedelic therapy session and won. After that, he didn't want to die because he saw the meaning of life. He had love. He saw what he had to see. The mushroom showed him what he needed to see to love life again, to redefine love, to accept what happened in the past, to be able to talk about the things that actually just made him quiver before, to be able to manage them and process them and integrate them into his life to be a better person. Today, he's an advocate for this medicine, going around trying to help other veterans do the same. How the fuck can you say that is a stupid thing? How the fuck, or a dangerous thing? How the fuck can you make that an illegal thing? Sorry, I'm not going to go into that. I'm passionate about this because it's so freaking stupid that we're living in a world where this is widely accepted as illegal. Whew, okay, so works for depression, but why? Then I have a little note here saying neurogenesis, because it kind of made sense for me, but it's at the same time it doesn't, because it's like the way I see it. You have a shitty situation going on. You might have bad thoughts. And so what happens when you feel love is that you overshadow the bad with the love. And when you have more love just poured over this negativity, the negativity will drown out. It's like shadow will always move away from the light, right? But you need both. But it is good to have the balance. So the love will then come in and you'll see the balance and you'll be able to handle the negativity that is already there. So you'll all of a sudden you don't need the depression anymore. Make sense? Because you have so much love and positivity and useful stuff to pull from. And this is just being grounded in yourself. You have a ground and an anchor in yourself. With the love as a foundation, of course. But if you don't have love for yourself, when this is something that I've seen a lot, if you don't have love for yourself, how can you then share your love to others or anything regarding love in your life? Because you need the love. When you have love, and when your brain is basically forming new neural pathways around how to create that love, and your heart and your brain is communicating as it should be, and you're creating the happiness from within, depression becomes something that is not needed. Although sometimes you really need depression as well, but temporarily. You need to go in, you need to basically face the emotions. If you feel bad, that's okay. It's gonna pass. The sun will come out after rain. Most people will try to bottle it up. not show emotions, not cry in front of people because that's taboo. That's not what we do. We're strong men. Who? Fuck that shit. Just be you. Just feel. We are emotional creatures. So why are we suppressing the emotions? The actual emotions that is making us into superheroes. Because that's how we communicate with the world around us. Emotions and vibrations is how we communicate with the universe. But we've been taught to suppress them. So of course we're gonna be robotic, oppressive, frickin' zombies that go through life hating the experience instead of seeing what it is actually capable of doing. See, for me, it makes sense. And I'm sorry if I feel offensive to people here, but there are ways. Because I've been on the negative side. That's why I'm so stern on this. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because I've been on the down side of life many times. But it wasn't until I saw the real benefits of the medicine that I actually saw what was possible. And I know that a lot of you are scared. I know that it is not simple to just do a psychedelic trip, and I'm not recommending it. But you should start to meditate. You should start to take personal development as a serious aspect of your life. Because once you do, holy crap, I can't even put into words the effect that it will have on your spirituality. If you're not spiritual as well. See, I was hating on people that was religious before, and science was my only go-to. I was an atheist. Now I have a very much more genuinely open-minded curiosity towards the entire thing because I see everything as frequency. I think that the belief in the religion is what is causing the effect of the religion, instead of the book that was written by humans to try to explain something that was not really explained well 2,000 years ago with the technology that they had at the moment. But we have talked about that before. I'm going to talk probably more about it, but it just makes sense to me. Sorry if I feel offensive. Lasting results, but why? I think that also goes back to neurogenesis, because you're actually creating neural pathways and it becomes a habit to be in a high vibration. It becomes a habit to be happy, and that is a very good habit to have. You accept the past, and then I have bad trips with 2 lines drawn onto them, but I think we went into the bad trips in a good fashion. Then we have why people don't use this. Afraid to reach out because of the system, which is understandable because the system has done a fantastic job in making everyone afraid. Then we have fear being the biggest, the most hugest reason as to why people don't do this, or why they don't want to explore it, or why it might not even be the fear of the psychedelic. It might be the fear of themselves. It might be fear of what happens if my comfort bubble changes, what happens if everything changes around me, all these things. And then the last thing I have is HPPD. I also have SSRI because we have these, antipsychotics and antidepressants and all that stuff. It is a thing that we have to take into account. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not recommending you taking psychedelics if you're not ready for it. And if you are feeling like you're called to this, you should seek out your medical professional if you have medications that you're using right now. If you have medical history, like a medical history of bad mental health or whatever, I think that you should work together with your doctor. If your doctor is, narrow-minded and don't see this, as most are, find someone who are. And we also can help you a lot in just giving you answers, because there are very many different aspects and factors to take into account that is just going to show you, okay, I think that based on my experience with people with psychosis and people with bad mental health and people who are just doing this for that and this and that, blah, 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 we can, with reasonable amount of certainty, say that there is no harm in this, because to this date, nobody has died from psychedelic mushroom overdose. What you do on a psychedelic mushroom experience is a completely different matter. Set and setting being very important. HPPD, which was a hallucinogenic persistent perceptive disorder. It's a very long word. There are two different ways, two different HPPDs, HPPD1 and HPPD2. And HPPD2 is a benign, more short-lasting condition. Now, HPPD is literally you having a trip after the trip. You're seeing visuals that is not really there, almost. It's like you're having the visual effect of the psychedelic without being actually on the psychedelic. Some people will say that, it's like a free trip. Other people will find it a little annoying. I have never met anyone who has had this, right? It's like you can see tracing, maybe, when you're doing these things with your hand or seeing different things that not everyone else see. Number HPPD2 is a short, benign, easily treatable condition. And HPPD1 is a more semi-permanent, it takes longer to cure kind of condition. Both of them are like more annoying than dangerous, and it's all about, because during my years of this, I've never seen anyone have this other than on the trip itself. But I think that having, if you're feeling called to do something, at least I'm now talking from my own personal opinion, not giving you advice in any kind, fashion, or way. But for me, I was in a position where I wanted to have change in my life. So HPPD, even if I knew everything about it, it would still be a very minor challenge, a minor thing that I had to overcome in order for me to get the results or the potential results of getting ahead in my life. It's like sometimes you have to see the goal to be more powerful than fear or challenge or pain it takes to get there. And it's just weighing, what do you really want? What is the biggest priority in your life right now? But I think that is that was 40 minutes from what I knew was going to be a long one, and we went all over the place. I have a course that I haven't launched, but I have a course that goes into the beginner, the intermediate, and the advanced levels of what to consider within psychedelics, and it's going to be something that I build upon at all times. But this might have given you some answers, I hope. If it gave you more questions, good. Then start to research those questions. Try to find answers to those questions. If you want to have us help you, call Seppola.com and we can have a free consultation call and just see what we can figure out. But this is such a huge topic that it has completely consumed my life. I'm using my current freedom of speech to share about these things because of my personal experiences. And I think that it is very valuable information that we need to get out there, because the system is not doing us any favors with what they're doing. And currently, so many people are now starting to share their experiences because we're in this turning point. More and more people are starting to see the benefits of this. More and more research is done by this. And we are seeing a completely a huge shift in how we view these medicine. And with that said, I just want to remind you of my disclaimer. Do not take psychedelics if you're alone, if you don't have the foundation, the understanding. If you're just doing it for the high, then don't take psychedelics, because you're going to fuck yourself up more than you can probably imagine because of set and setting. If you're only seeking the high, you will find something that you did not expect. If you're seeking personal development, you will be in the mindset of knowing what is being shown to you, and then it will be more beneficial. And then there are those who just seek, cool visuals, the colors, It can be used in so many different ways. My personal way of going about these things is through the lens of personal development, and I think that it is crucial that people start taking that thing seriously. Personal development, that is. All right. Thank you so much for watching. That was a long video, but that was day 8. Talking about psychedelics again. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Take care of your freaking family. And I'll see you in the next one. Remember, if you need to talk, reach out in the comments or call.seppola.com, wherever. And let's make it happen. Love your face.